In this video, we've gone and done it again. We're going to see if we can't get this old here John Deere running and driving for the first time in many, many years. So let's see what we're getting ourselves into this time. Yep, we've gone and we've done it again. A friend of mine, who's actually a friend of the guy I bought my A from, which you'll see my revival videos up there, was selling this old B. He purchased, he thinks around 10 years ago in non-running condition. It's been sitting outside and he just didn't really have the time to get it running and driving again, and he didn't have the heart to scrap it. So I went over there, I took a look at it and said, well, we'll give her a shot. So we agreed upon a sum, and here we are. So let's go ahead and do a walkthrough. So this is a 1941 Model B John Deere. You can see it's, been used, right? Non-original front tires. It's got some car tires on there. The back tires, those suckers are almost like brand new. I mean, there's still even the little knobbies on here, right? So whoever put these on here must have just put the thing on, put them on there, and then they parked it. He doesn't really know how long it was sitting before he got it, but it had been sitting quite a few years, it seemed like. The main problem we're finding here is, you can see there's a bunch of rust up here, but, oops, excuse me, walk over here. That's not supposed to be there. That's a hole in the gas tank. So when he got it, there's actually an auxiliary tank, a boat tank rigged up here that was hooked up to the carburetor, and that's how they were running it. So I took the cap off here and I looked down there, and there's some furry critters living down there. There's all kinds of nests in there. So I don't know. I don't think this gas tank's going to be salvageable, but we're going to take a look at it. I got to pull it out either way, either to fix it or to replace it, but that's what we're going to have to do. We've got a magneto ignition. Like I said, 1941. Does have a generator. Does have lights. Generator does move. A little rough, a little crusty. You can see it's been exposed to the elements, but does move, so might be some hope there. What else we got going on here? Let's look over here at the carburetor. Does look like it's holding a bit of coolant, so I'm going to dump some coolant in there to see if it actually does hold, see if there's any leaks or not. But does seem like there's some coolant in there. Got the carburetor here. The throttle shaft is loose. Choke shaft, that is loose too. That's a good sign. That's much better than the last one I had. On my A, this is all snapped off in here, so that's a good sign. We got that going for us at least. Upper water pipe appears to be in good shape. Lower water pipe, it almost looks like they may have replaced that at some point here. That looks new-ish-er, but that all looks in good shape. That one might need to be replaced. That one doesn't look like it's been replaced yet, so that's not a good thing. It's got the spark plugs. We're missing the cover here. We're missing the seat. It does roll. The brakes do move. We think there's a bit of water in the rear end, because he said when they tried to drag it in from sitting outside, it didn't want to move. Then once you hit it with a torpedo heater, the rear end got moving. The gear shift kind of moves. I can get it to go before. Yep, I got it to go into that gear, but I can't really get it to go in these other gears. He said he was able to do that before, so there may be some water down there, so we're gonna have to check that out. Let's go over to the clutch here. The clutch, the lever does move. The linkage does move, but I'm getting no engagement, so I think my dogs and stuff on the back there are stuck, and my pulley doesn't want to move right now, so that might be stuck. So I might tap on that a little bit and get that moving, see if we can't get it moving there. Yeah, so where do we want to start? Oh, let me tell you the great news. Not. It is actually seized right now. The engine is seized. He said when he bought it, it was not seized, but from sitting outside for so long, it's seized from sitting. So we don't know if water got in there or not, so we're going to take a look at that. So I'm going to already hit the plugs with some penetrating fluid to try to loosen them up, but we'll pull out the plugs, take a look in there with a bore scope and see what we see. Then we'll go under here and we will crack open the drain plugs and see if we can't get anything to drain out of there, see if there's any water in the block, and we'll do the same thing for the rear end. All right, so let me get some tools here and we will take a look. All right, guys, I pulled my plugs out. I apologize. I'm outside. It's windy and there's road noise, so it's going to be hard to hear me. But pulled my plugs out. They're not rusty, so that's a good sign. So that's one. Here's the other. They came out pretty easy, so probably not water in there. But I'm going to go ahead and hook up my bore scope and poke down in there and see what we can see. So you should be able to hear some of that audio. So let's see how that works. All right, guys. Hopefully you can hear me. But here we are looking inside the cylinder here. I'm not really seeing any rust. I don't really see any water, but I'm seeing that stuff. I have no idea what that is. It looks like it's up towards like where the valves would be, but I have no idea what the heck that is. The cylinders don't look that bad, so this thing might just pop right loose, but let's go ahead and look on the other side and see if that looks similar here. Hold on. Okay. Let's see. Oop. What on earth is going on here? I see more of that stuff in there. I don't know what that is. It's like something got in there somehow, but I don't know how. So I'm going to go ahead and try to take some compressed air and see if I can't blow that stuff around here. So let me do that and then we'll take another look. 1 second. All right, well, I'm waiting for my compressor to fill up so we can see if we can blast those cylinders out. I did throw some antifreeze down in here. I didn't have enough to fill it up to the top, but I filled it up to the level just above where the fins are in there, and so it does hold. So that's good. I'm not seeing any leaks. I will get some more and fill it up to the top, but that's a good sign. Better than my last one. Okay, I'm also going to see if we can't take a sample. I mean, I see oil dripping right here, so that probably means there's no water in there, but I'm going to see if I can't take a sample right here, get some of that leaking out, and see if there's any water in the crankcase. So hopefully I can do that. I'm trying to sit down here so you can see, but I know it's kind of hard. All right, here we are. Thought I already cracked that loose, guess not. Yeah, that's loose. All right, so I'm not going to drain it completely out. I'm just going to drain it until I see something come out, and hopefully it's oil. We're getting close. I don't want it to completely come out and make a big mess. Come on. Oop. Oh boy. That means there's sludge in there. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put that back up for right now. If you couldn't see that, I pulled the drain plug completely out and nothing came out, meaning that there's probably sludge up in there. So we're going to go ahead and cap that back off for now. And we're probably going to have to break through that. That's not good. Makes you wonder why it's leaking right here, though. See if I can tighten that back up. It's tight. It must be just that gasket leak in there. So that's something we'll have to address. All right, let me crawl to the back there and we'll try to do the same thing in the rear end. 1 second. All right, well, I'm waiting for my compressor to fill up so we can see if we can blast those cylinders out. I did throw some antifreeze down in here. I didn't have enough to fill it up to the top, but I filled it up to the level just above where the fins are in there, and so it does hold. So that's good. I'm not seeing any leaks. I will get some more and fill it up to the top, but that's a good sign. Better than my last one. Okay, I'm also going to see if we can't take a sample. I mean, I see oil dripping right here, so that probably means there's no water in there, but I'm going to see if I can't take a sample right here, get some of that leaking out, and see if there's any water in the crankcase. So hopefully I can do that. I'm trying to sit down here so you can see, but I know it's kind of hard. All right, here we are. Thought I already cracked that loose, guess not. Yeah, that's loose. All right, so I'm not going to drain it completely out. I'm just going to drain it until I see something come out, and hopefully it's oil. We're getting close. I don't want it to completely come out and make a big mess. Come on. Oop. Oh boy. That means there's sludge in there. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put that back up for right now. If you couldn't see that, I pulled the drain plug completely out and nothing came out, meaning that there's probably sludge up in there. So we're gonna go ahead and cap that back off for now. And we're probably gonna have to break through that. That's not good. Makes you wonder why it's leaking right here though. See if I can tighten that back up. Oh, it's tight. It must be just that gasket leak in there. So that's something we'll have to address. All right, let me crawl to the back there and we'll try to do the same thing in the rear end. 1 second. All right, guys. Well, I've got the rear end cracked open here. Hopefully you can see that. And you can see there is water coming out of there. I was also thinking too, in the block, there could be water in the bottom frozen here, and that might be keeping it from coming out, but it's more than likely a sludge buildup. But here, we definitely got water. And it is draining, so that's a good sign. So I'm gonna go ahead and I might open this up a little bit more. Whoop. Stopped it. Let that drain until it all drains out. So I'm gonna let that keep on draining until we start seeing brown stuff come out. So we'll let that go for a while and then we'll bring it back. All right, while we're doing that, we're gonna let that go a while. Compressor is filled. Now let's see if we can't blast some stuff out of the cylinders here. So, all right, let's see what happens. Yeah, there's definitely stuff coming out of there. I don't know what that is. I've just seen little particles of it, but here's a little bit of it right here. It's like leaves and crap. So how is that getting down inside the block is my question. I'm not seeing any water come out, so that's a good sign. So this thing probably is just stuck from sitting. So I have a good shot at getting it to break loose, but we're gonna blast this out a little bit. All right, let's go over to the other side and see if we get the same result. Oop, don't get tangled in my cord. All right, let's see what happens over here. Okay, that came out of there. That looks like a pumpkin seed. What in the heck? How are there seeds inside the block? How's that happen? Should be sealed on the backside here. The only way to come in is through the valves, I guess. So did something go down through the exhaust and through the valves and try to make a nest in there? Holy cow, there's all kinds of stuff flying out of there. Well, that's peculiar. Makes me want to pull off that valve cover and see what's inside there. Wonder if that thing's just packed full of nests. That would be interesting. Yeah, there's not. The only way in would be through that. Now he did say he kept a cap on there, so I guess they could have crawled up there and went down that way. But I mean, you can't put anything past mice. Those little buggers are ingenuitive, if anything, right? They can get in anywhere and then make a nest anywhere and thrive. Yep, there's more stuff coming out of there. What in the world? That's unbelievable. All right, I'm gonna work on that for a while, see if I can't get it out, and then we'll take another look inside. 1 second. All right, hopefully you can hear me. We are on the flywheel side cylinder, taking a look. Looking up towards the valves. I'm not seeing anything like we were seeing before. We'll look back towards the piston. Yeah, not seeing anything. It is a little dry in there, so yeah. Let's go over to the other side. Oop, sorry for the noise again. All right, we'll take a little gander inside this side. Alright, I'm not seeing stuff like we did before, so I might have got it all out. There was quite a bit of crud coming out of there. I don't know how much you could see on camera, but there was quite a bit. Alright, so next thing, well, let me bring it back to regular mode, and then we'll talk. Alright, well that was freaking interesting. I think I am going to go ahead and just pop that valve cover off, since that's pretty easy to do, so I'm going to go ahead and pop those two nuts off, and we'll see what it looks like in there, so 1 second. So I had to take off my carburetor bowl to get my valve cover off there. So good news is I got that opened. Float pivots. It is pretty rusty and corroded in there. You see all that crud that fell out of there. Here's what the top side looks like. So yeah, there's quite a bit of rust. All right, valve cover's off. No mouse nest in there. It actually looks pretty good. I'm going to try to see if I can move these valves to make sure everything's okay. Let me see if I can get the rest of the way out of here off camera. 1 second. All right, so as long as I'm doing this, I might as well just take my carburetor off and take it inside and get it soaking, because I think it needs to. But I mean, pretty good shape otherwise, honestly. Both the needles move, both linkages moved, like I said before. Okay, so I just need to, I took my choke linkage off, took my throttle linkage off, and then I need to take off this bolt, and there's a bolt on the other side, and it'll come right off. Someone has been working on this before, you can tell, because these cotter pins are not original. So here, look up here. See how that one's all dark and rusty and it's actually thicker? These are these thinner, newer ones, right? So someone has worked on this thing before. So, I mean, whatever, for, you know, for what that's worth. Could be good, could be bad. We'll find out as we get into it. But yeah, that's what that means. So we'll go ahead and take this off, take the other one off, and then the car will be off. Then we'll pop that valve cover off. All right, valve cover's off, carburetor's off. I actually took some penetrant and just squirted it up in there as far as I could, hoping some of it would dribble down into the engine. Stuffed this bag in here since I'm going to keep this outside for now, just to make sure that nothing goes in there. And we're going to check our valves here quick. So what I do is I take and I don't have a hammer with me out here, but I go ahead and I tap, and you can see that they're moving. Okay. If you have one that's not moving, you're going to hear more of a blunt sound, whereas this, they're actually moving, and I can see them moving. I don't know if you can see that on camera. We'll check that one. That one's moving. That one's also moving. Not getting a good swing there, but that one is also moving. You can also watch the push rods. You'll see the push rods moving too. So I don't think the valves are stuck. I went ahead and I hit each one with some PV blaster just in case. So I think that's good. Now we're going to go ahead and put our valve cover back on. And we're going to squirt some penetrant and some marble mystery oil and some other stuff down in the cylinders to see if we can't get this bad boy to free up. So 1 second. All right, got the valve cover and all that back together. I took generous amounts of this stuff and sprayed it in the plug holes there. I also dumped about, I don't know, 8 ounces of marble mystery oil in each one too, just to try to help see what's going on. You know, get the rings moving, get things penetrated, you know, get things moving. I don't think it's going to take much. I pulled off my flywheel cover. I was not able to move it by hand here, so we're just going to try, see what happens here. Take the pry bar. Don't want to pry too hard against that nose cone there, but oh, look at that, it's already moving. Hey, oop, she budged. That's a good sign. That's a very good sign. Yep, she's moving. Don't want to break these teeth off. Don't want to break my nose cone, but flywheel is moving. All right, let's see if we can go back the other way a little bit. Oh, there she goes. Hey, you know what? Let's just see here. Oh, look at it. I can move it by hand a little bit now. All right, I'm going to keep working that by hand here and see if we can't get her to do a revolution. So 1 second. All right, guys, that was actually pretty easy. Look at this. We can go full revolution. And I'm pulling her by hand. Look at that. Feels to run pretty smooth. I'm not feeling anything grabbing there. Feels pretty smooth all the way around. Now, what I don't know is if she has compression. I'll bet she does. But she's rolling over free now. Cool. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the plugs back in. Or I'm going to spray some more stuff in there, throw the plugs back in, leave it sit overnight, and then tackle this in the morning. But first, let's crawl under here, see how our water situation's going. Move our stuff out of the way here. Not really that much. We got about that much out of there, so I think I might open it up and poke around and hopefully not make a big mess of myself. So let me try that quick. Okay, so here's what's happening, boys. It's cold out here. It's right at about freezing, or probably below freezing out here. So the stuff that's dripping out is actually turning back into ice. So I think, yeah, you can see I moved it and stuff starts flowing again. So the stuff is starting to freeze again back there. It's just a little bit too cold. So I think what I'm going to do is let this rest overnight, tighten this back up, and then tomorrow, I don't know what the temperature's supposed to be, but I might come out here with a torch and just try to heat that up and see if I can't get more of that to flow out here. But so we're going to button that back up. We'll throw some more penetrant inside the cylinders, and then we will put the plugs back in, and we'll come back at this tomorrow, see what's going on. So stay tuned until then. All right, we're back the next morning. And she got cold last night. It was in the teens when I woke up this morning, and frost everywhere. So you can see there's still a little frost on the tires here. So I bet you all that water in there froze back up again. So we're not gonna be able to drain that out this morning. But I think what we can do, well, for right now, I actually have that carb going in the ultrasonic cleaner on the heat function, trying to get some of that goo cleaned out of there. So we can probably get that cleaned out in a little while here. But first, I want to see if we can get the starter to kick this thing over here, right? So I got myself a battery with a grabbing handle. Okay. We've got battery cables, which are good. Let's see. So it appears this one goes down to the ground. This one goes to the hot side of the starter there. So this being a 1941 model, it'll be a positive ground. Should be a positive ground. So that's the way we're going to hook this up. So let's see if we can get our battery up there one-handed. Alright, do ourselves a favor. Which side's the posi? There's our posi. We're going to want that on that side. Alright, let's see here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get that hooked up off camera, and then we will try to kick that starter over. So give me a second here. Well, scratch that. It appears someone has converted this to negative ground as opposed to positive ground. These would have come from the factory positive ground. That's how all these old tractors were. Now, the reason I say that is when I first put my battery up there, tried to put my terminals on, and this one fit really loosely on that negative terminal. I'm like, huh. And that one would barely fit on, didn't want to fit on the positive terminal. So I went ahead and I flipped the battery around and they both slid right on. So that tells me that somebody did convert this to positive ground, negative ground at some point. So I've just got these on here snug. You can see this is farmer fixed, right? They got the cable hose clamp there. So yeah, this is not ideal, but should give us enough to see if the starter kicks over. All right, so starter here. You just hit this lever here in, and it basically completes the circuit inside there, and it should spin. Okay, well, we got contact, but seems like our Bendix is stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and lube that up and see if I can't get it to move before I chip a tooth on that flywheel there. So just give me a minute, and I'll bring you back. All right, so I hit my Bendix in there with a little bit of a penetrant. I got it to slide over onto the teeth here. So let's just see if we can't make her turn over now. I pulled out my plugs, and remember, I've got all that Marvel Mystery Oil in there, so I'm going to stand off to the side over here, try not to get myself tangled in the flywheel, so I don't get blasted with stuff coming out of that cylinder. So let's see what happens. Ho-ho-ho-ho. Our check wire light just came on. That sucked. That nut right there was glowing. Let's see if I can do it again. Probably can't see that off camera, but that thing is glowing hot. So we're not going to want to touch that. That just means we have a bad connection there. It's all rusty and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't clean that up and get us a little bit better connection there. But the good news is the starter works. It turned the tractor over just fine. The cylinders are moving over nice and freely, so that's great. Let me go ahead and work on that, and I'll bring you back. All right, we got her cleaned up. Let's see what happens now. Wow, she actually turns over significantly faster now. I think I got most of the crud blasted out of those cylinders. So let's put the plugs back in and see what it sounds like under compression. 1 second. All right, our plugs are back in. Let's see what happens. Hey, sounds like we got compression on both cylinders. All right, what do you say we take a chance and see if we have any spark? Now, she is a magneto system, so I don't really need any wiring hooked up. We just need engine rotation, and this thing should spark. So I'm going to run inside and grab my spark tester here, and we'll hook it up in between our plugs and our wire and see if we got anything going on there. So just give me 1 minute, and we'll check her out. All right, we've got our spark tester in line here with this plug. Let's just go around to the other side. Now, this being a magneto system, a lot of times it does not have an inline switch to turn the engine off. you really just walk over here and you push that button, it shorts out the magneto and kills the spark basically, right? So there's no, I don't see a switch anywhere. Yeah, I mean, this is the light switch up here, nothing there, and I don't see any other wires coming off. You will sometimes see a wire coming off here that goes up to a switch up here that you can, you know, hit to short it out, but I'm not seeing that. So let's go ahead and make sure our wires, give me a second here. Okay, so they go up inside here. Make sure our wires have, ooh, those are corroded. Hold on, let me clean these out here and then I'll bring you back. All right, I went ahead and I cleaned off the wires on that side. I cleaned off the inside of the boot on this side. So let's just see what we get when we turn her over here. Nothing. Tell you what, we're gonna come over here, grab my screwdriver. There are a set of points inside this cap here. So I'm going to go ahead and take those 4 screws off, pull it off, and we'll see what it looks like inside there. And I'll bet you those points just need a little sanding. So let me pull it off. I'll show you what it looks like inside and we'll go from there. Well, there's your problem. I mean, she's pretty corroded in here. You can tell water's gotten in this bad boy. Most importantly, right here are your points. And they're actually like stuck together here. Holy cripes. There we go. Got them to move, but you can see all that corrosion in there, all that green stuff. That needs to go bye-bye. So what we're gonna do is I've got a thing of electrical cleaner here. We're gonna give her a good spritz down everywhere. And then, I don't know if I can do it one-handed here. I'll probably have to turn off the camera, but I've got my little points file here. We're gonna slide it. Maybe I can do it. Oh, probably not. I'm gonna slide it in between there. Oh, I got her in there. I'll do it off camera, but slide her in between there and then just give her a good working back and forth until we get some shine back on them points. And then she may want to fire. So let me go ahead and do that, get this as cleaned up as I can, and then I'll bring you back. All right, we got her sprayed down pretty good. We got her filed down a little bit there, so I unfortunately can't reach the starter from here in order to kick it over and see. I did go ahead and I cleaned out the inside of the cap too, so we're gonna put the cap back together. We're gonna go back over there and look at our spark tester and see what happens. So let me get this back together and then I'll bring you back. All right, boys, we're back on the other side. Let's give her a go and see what happens here. Let's look for spark. I saw spark like 3 times. It's there, it's just not sparking all the time. So I might be just a little bit dirty in here. Oh yeah, that's coming apart. That's probably the problem right there. Hold on, let me see if I can wedge that in there somehow. Yeah, that's just on here loosely. It doesn't want to make a good tight fit. Let's try it again. Yep, that was the problem. Now I got spark every time. All right, so we got spark. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the other side. I don't know if this is gonna work or not, but yeah, we don't have a carburetor on here, but let's see if we can spray a little hot sauce right down the intake and see if we can get it to pop. Just want to hear it pop. All right, let's give that a try. 1 second. All right, we're gonna spray a healthy dose right down the yap and see what happens here. All right, let's just see. She's trying to fire, boys. Let's try that again. All right, we're gonna leave it at that. I'm very hopeful now. I think she's gonna fire. She was trying to pop off there just from that little bit of ether. All right, so let's go in and see the condition of that carburetor. It's been in that ultrasonic cleaner for about half hour now on the heat setting. So let's just see if we can get that thing cleaned up and we might be able to make some noise today. 1 second. All right, guys, here's the carb. You can see it still has quite a bit of rust on here. What I have done in the past with other carbs is soak them in evaporust too, to get rid of that surface rust, which actually does work pretty good. But we're going to see if we can do this without that. But I'm not sure. We'll see. Let's just try to give this a good cleaning. All right, so we're gonna work on taking everything apart here. So let's start with the bowl. So I'm gonna start by taking this guy off here. That's gonna be a 9/16. Let me see which model carburetor this is. This is a DLTX 34, so that is the correct carburetor for the B. All right, 9/16. Don't get your bolt stuck on there. See what she looks like. Ooh, she's pretty grody in there. So I think what I'm going to do is get this taken all the rest of the way apart and put it back in the ultrasonic and try to get that goo out of the bottom there. That's like, yeah, you can smell it. That's like old varnished fuel down there. So let's see. Let's try to get the pivot float out, because the needle and seat are down in here, or down in here, however you want to look at it. But the float pivot, you want to take apart too and get that cleaned up. So these are normally pretty stuck. You can see somebody has tried to get in here before. I don't know if they succeeded or not, but you can see they started stripping that out. So we're going to try using our impact screwdriver on that and see if we can't break it loose. So basically, take this bad boy, give it a firm pressure down and give it a couple whacks. Hopefully I can do it so that you can actually see it. Let's try it there. Maybe you can see it turning now if it turns. Do you see it turned a little bit? So what that does is it shocks the threads down, helps break up any rust or anything that's in there. And then at the same time, it kind of ratchets over as you're making impact there. So it kind of works the same way as your like impact driver, like, you know, that. But this instead of just ratcheting sideways or impacting sideways, this impacts down and then sideways. So it's very effective of getting old stuff apart. There, it's turning. There, I can just about turn it by hand now. Or I can turn it by hand now. Good thing about this handle too, it's nice and big so you can get a good grip on it and get some good torque on it. So let's get that bad boy apart. Okay, and the pivot came up right out with it. That's good. So now our float will come out. Hopefully, let's listen. I don't hear any rattling around in there or any sloshing around in there. So meaning that it would have a leak. So a lot of times you put it in there in the ultrasonic and it has a leak and it'll fill up with some of the juice you have in there. I don't hear anything, so the float is probably good. So I'm gonna set these off to the side for now. Set this off to the side for now. Yeah, here goes our needle right there. Set that off to the side. I'm gonna see if I can't get that out of there. Those are normally kind of tough, but it would be nice to get that out of there and clean up all those surfaces. But you know what? I'm gonna put it back in the ultrasonic first to see if I can get it to heat up and get some more of this goo out of here. And I'll bring it back and then we'll start working on the main body of the carb. 1 second. All right, now let's see what we can do about this main body here. Now, just going around here, you can see there's all these little brass plugs. And you can kind of see here, like it goes down and like there's these passages in here. And you can see there's brass plugs here and here, right? So these passages in here, they all get full of rust and other goo down in there that you want to try to get out. So those little brass plugs need to come out in order to do a thorough cleaning of these carbs, right? I've done this in other videos, but we'll go ahead and try to show you on this one too if we can. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take out our needles. So this is our idle needle. It says right there, idle. So we'll take him out, put him off to the side. Actually looks good. It's just, you know, covered in goo. And then this is our load needle, and it does say, yeah, right there it says load. Hard to read because it's kind of rusty, but it does say load right there. Pull him out. You can tell the difference. Idle is more pointy. Load is more blunted, okay? Just so you know. And we're recording this, so then I'll remember when I put it together. All right, so now I'm going to leave the throttle shaft in for now, or the choke shaft in for now. Now we're going to go ahead and try to work some of these plugs out. So it's really easy to strip these because they are brass. So you want to use a good sturdy screwdriver. I might try to use the impact on the ones I can reach. Here, tell you what, let's go over to the vise and we'll try to do this. 1 second. All right, this is gonna be about the best view that I can give you all. So here goes nothing. Let me grab my hammer here before I forget. So I'm gonna need it. Okay. I use the vise because obviously I have the stem of my carburetor sticking down here, and it's not gonna be easy to pound on a surface like this. So that way, I've got it down here, and this flange is resting on the vise. Okay, I can even tighten it up just a hair so that more of that surface is on there. You don't want to beat the snot out of this thing because this stuff is cast and you could crack it, okay? I have not done it, but I've heard of guys doing it. All right, so we're going to try this guy first. She budged. Ooh, I think we're stripping her out. I was afraid of that. Shoot. Let's try this one. That one's going to be too big, so we're going to just try... Tell you what, let's try hitting these with some penetrant. I might wind up having to drill some of these out. Let's see, where else we got one. Got a big boy right there, okay. Let's try this one. Just by turning it. Oh man, she's pretty tight. Oh boy, I think we're gonna have problems here, folks. These you can get to. This almost kind of helps because that just barely fits in there, so you can get it lined up just perfect in there. You don't have to worry about it slipping. Yep, see, I actually got that one to come loose down inside there. Don't drop her. Don't drop her. And we dropped her. Let me find that. 1 second. Found it. It was just laying right down here on the edge. All right. I've got a different screwdriver for this next one. I actually have modified. I ground it down so it's real skinny so it slides through here. And it's got a little bit more of a, you know, rigid tip on it. So let's see if we can't get this one to move. So now I've got it clamped down in the vise. Not overly hard because I don't want to crack anything. But now we can go in, make sure we're square and good, give it a lot of pressure. Oh, she's moving. There we go. All right, we got that one to move. These things are pretty stubborn. All right, we don't want to drop that one like we did the last one. Come on. Okay. Oh, sure, I just knocked that down again. It's okay, we'll get that in a second. There it is. All right. Why don't we go ahead and put these someplace safe, like over here, away from where I'm working, so I don't knock them down. All right. Now let's try this one. We're going to take our hammer and try to shock the threads down without trying to turn it. Just try to give it a couple of whacks. See if... I like using these shorties just because you don't have a lot of wobble when you're trying to do this type of work. So get a little bit more control. Oh, she moved. All right. Yes. That one's coming out too. Okay. What else we got? Flip around the other side. We got one over here. Try to show you that one. Oh, that one was actually really loose. That's peculiar. Put you down over here. Got this big boy on the side here. Let's see if we can't get him to break loose. Oh, yep, she popped loose. That's good. Okay. Oh, yeah, there's some goo-goo down in there, that's for sure. Woo! Stanky. That one's still going to be a problem. All right, then we got two down here in the stem. We got this one, and we got this one over here. So let's see if we can't get those to pop loose. This one looks like it should be pretty easy, but... Oh yeah, that one was actually kind of loose. You know, sometimes too, so on my ultrasonic cleaner, I use the heat function. I have it turned up as high as I can. Just by making that stuff expand and contract, it helps break up some of that rust and stuff that's in there too, any of that corrosion and goo that's in there. This one, let's try this screwdriver. Need a plethora of screwdrivers to try to find the right one while you're doing this. Oops, don't want to break that. Let me grab a different one. Let's try to shock that one too, now that I'm thinking about it. Try to shock it with the hammer. And that one doesn't want to fit down there very good, so I think we're better off with... let me try another one. Yeah, this one might work. This one's got a nice blade on it. Alright, let's try to shock her. Shock her a little bit. See what that does for us, if anything. Oh, that one wants to strip. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a torch and try to heat up the casting here and do it for the top side, and I'll bring you back in a second. All right, guys, so I took my just my regular old torch here, and I heated her up for a good while. Then I decided to take my, get the casting all heated up, see if I get everything to move. Then I decided to take my CRC freeze off. I've showed this in other videos, but basically this stuff, it's a penetrant, but it's also cold. So you spray it on the fastener for 20 seconds, and it actually makes the fastener cold to the touch. So I got everything really hot and then really cold. Now, you do risk cracking the casting by doing this since it's just cast, but I didn't get it red hot, so it wasn't that hot. But we'll see if we can't get this thing to move now. All right, so we'll go ahead and, let's see, we'll use this screwdriver. Hopefully that was enough, because that thing was... Oh, shit, look at that. She's coming right out. Well, not right out. It's moving, though. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I'm going to open that up and hit it with a little bit more freeze off to try to get some penetrant down inside there. We'll work it back down and then up. Casting is still hot down here, by the way. Oh, okay, she's going to come out. Yeah, buddy. Look at that. Well, that thing was stuck fast. So that does show you that this heat works, okay? And that freeze off. I don't know which it was, if it was a combination of both or what, but that stuff does work. All right, so that's now clear. This one's clear. We only really have one more to get out, and that's this bad boy up here. I'm going to try the same method on that. I'm going to heat it, and I'm going to cool it, and we'll see if we can't get it to budge. It might be too stripped already, because that is pretty stripped, but I can also try to put more of a groove down there to see if I can get my screwdriver to bite. So let me work on that, and I'll bring you right back. All right, guys, so I took my Dremel and I put a slit in there as best I could. It wasn't a good angle, so I just got it started. Then I took a little baby file and just chipped out that brass until I got down to the surface and made myself a new thread there, basically, so that I actually have, a good solid, good solid surface to locate on. So now, then I went ahead and I heated it back up, and I hit it again with the CRC freeze off. Now we're going to try our impact on there. So I'm going to just go real gentle here. I'm still going to hit it, but I'm going to make sure I'm pushing down plenty hard with my hand and not give it like big whacks with the hammer and see if we can't get it to move. Oh, come on. Oh, she budged. Look at that. She's going to come out on her. Oh, look at that. We got her loose. All right, that worked. Cool. All right, now we got all of our plugs out. Okay, now we're going to go back over to the bench here, and I'll show you how to do the rest. Stay tuned. All right, here we go. We've got a carburetor, and we've got a handful of tools over here. Some of them bought, some of them made, okay? These are very important. These long aircraft drill bits, they're called. I think I bought these in a set from, it was called Robert's Carburetor years ago. There are different sizes, but I found these three sizes pretty much get me where I want to go. I've also got a spring that I bent to a 90-degree angle. We'll see why we have to do that in a minute here. And then I just like, a paper clip works good too. And actually, I don't know if I actually have it available, but a torch tip cleaner, here we go, yeah. Works good in these situations too, because it has various sizes to, poke out different orifices. All right, so basically, as mentioning earlier, those plugs were hiding all these passageways here, and they get plugged up with all kinds of stuff. So let's start here at the bottom, okay? So we got 2 plugs that we took out. We took out that one, we took out that one, okay? So I don't remember which drill bit works in which situation, so we're just gonna poke around and find out. Oh, let me get my carb cleaner here. Yep, that always helps. All right, so start by spraying out the surface. Get any goo-goo out of there. You never want to use these drill bits in a drill. You always want to do it by hand. The idea here is not to widen the hole, it's to clear the gunk out of the hole. All these holes are a certain size for a certain reason, to allow certain airflow and that through there. So these are all designed by very, very, very smart people, 100 years ago, basically. And it works, right? These tractors run, okay? So you want to find the correct one for the hole. So now this one here, you can see we went through, all the way through, and we bellied out in the bottom of the carb there. So that one's done. I don't know, there may be another passageway down at the bottom there that I have to clear out too. Let me just see. Yep, it does look like there is. So that's where we're going to go ahead and take our paper clip here. Try to clear that out. I think that's it. Try this one just to make sure. Oops. Looks like a little tipper got bent there. Where's my pliers? There it is. We want to straighten this guy out. Come on. Yep, that works good. I like the spring because it's, springy. It tends to not want to break. It's pretty resilient if you poke in there. Okay, I think we might have gotten that. So let's go down this one. Yep, I can feel my spring down in there, so we've cleared that passage. Seemed like it was a little dirty. I'm going to go ahead at the end here and clean it all out with Carb Clean too. All right, where's my other one over here? Okay, let's stand this one up on end here. This one looks like, yep, it's going to use that drill bit. That might be it. Yeah, so this one, this passage here goes all the way down there. And I can see that. And then we're going to take this guy, probably this guy. And there's another passage down there. And you can see I'm contacting that drill bit I put down there. So we're clearing that passage out. So we're going to go ahead again at the end and blow that out. I can see there's goo down in that one. And now that I'm spraying that, it's coming back up through this hole. Okay, so those are pretty much clear. Like I said, we're going to go through with compressed air, and we're going to take some Carb Clean and blast all that stuff out. So now let's look at the top here. Okay, so these, here, I'll try to go this way. The big one goes down here, right? So that goes way down inside there. If you can see, goes down like that far. So it kind of bellies out down in this region here. All right, so that doesn't feel like there's anything in there. Let me see what happens when I take the next size. See if there's another hole down there. Gotta be honest, I'm not as familiar with the B carbs. I've done a lot more A's than B's. I can feel there's some goo down there. Yep, you can see it on the tip there. There's some rust and stuff down there. Let's try the smaller one once. So let's see. That one is going to go all the way down here. All right. So yeah, that's actually where your needle goes. So it's got to be clear all the way down to this little hole right here. All right. So now let's try our big boy over here. This one kind of comes down. It makes like a 90 down in here. Oh yeah, there's some goo coming out of that hole for sure. Blast that guy out. Ooh, that one seems like it's pretty plugged. That one is coming down here too. Someone has definitely been in here before. You know why? Because this is supposed to have a brass plug in it. That is your bowl vent. And that, when you have the bowl on here and the floats in here, it helps it to not create an airlock. So if that gets plugged, you get an airlock and the float will never come up all the way and gas will just continually run out. So that one is notorious for getting plugged up. So guys will pull out those brass plugs and then clean that out. And you don't really need to. The brass plug is there. It's not a complete plug. There's a hole in the middle with like a dome on it, and that's there to help prevent, like if you're on a hill or you're bouncing, like stuff getting splashed up in there and causing the tractor to cough. I've pulled that out on 3 different A's now, and I've never had an issue with not putting it back in there. So someone has been in here and cleaned this before, and it is okay to leave that out, okay? All right, so let's see what else we got down in here. So we'll take that one. We'll try to take the smaller one. Nope, I think that's good. All right, so now let's go up through this side here. So there's a plug here. You just basically have to try to figure out where all these go through and where they meet, or where they you know, where air comes out. Make sure that happens there, right? Make sure there's no plugging. There should be airflow through every single one of these as you're doing this. Okay. Yeah, this one is coming out here where the bowl vent is, right? So that's part of the bowl vent passageway. So that one seems clear now. All right, let's work on these guys over here. Whoops. Whoop. Plug that up. Okay, so that one is going through somewhere. I'm not really sure where. That might go all the way through. Oh, that goes into the, okay, I see. That goes all the way through into the throat over here. There's a hole over there. Okay, so I think that one's clear. Now let's see what this one does. I think our medium-sized one. Ooh, I can feel some goo-goo in there. Oh yeah, look at that. Let's try our smaller one. Yep, that one actually poked through into something else. Ooh, I can feel more stuff down. All right, let's try to loosen that one up. Yep, see that one comes all the way through here and comes out down here. You can see how all these passageways are intertwined in there, right? And they all need to be clear in order for the tractor to run halfway decent. All right, now we'll take this guy and see if we can poke her down in there. Probably not long enough. And we'll take this one. I always just try to run multiple things through there just to feel what I can feel. All right, so now let's look down, put this one down there one more time. Yep, I can see that one coming through into this passageway here, so that's clear, right? For the most part. We'll still, again, go through with compressed air and carb cleaner and blast that out. All right, what else we got here? We did that one, we did that one, we did that one. This little guy over here. Let's see what he has to say. Where do you go to, little feller? That one, oh, that one just goes straight into the throat there. So that one's actually clear. So that's good. All right. So now it's going to be hard to see, but there's another little passage there. And then behind it, where is it? I just saw it a second ago. There is another little small one in there. Those are hard to get to. So these are where I use these thin wires. So there's a bigger hole and a smaller hole inside of it. Okay, so we're going to try to poke through with our wire. Yep. And see where that goes. All right, now let's take our carb clean. That one's blasting out this hole here. So we got that one clear now. Where did our other little one go? All right, I'm going to just investigate around a little bit more and make sure I didn't miss anything, and I'll bring you back if I find any more. All right, guys, while I was talking and filming with you guys, I realized after the fact, as I was blowing stuff out, I didn't quite go far enough. So this passageway here, actually, the big one goes all the way through to there. Hopefully you can see that. Yep, you can see that. Right, so it was actually kind of plugged up to about there. So I started with the small one, and I worked my way through, and I got the big one. This one actually goes all the way down to there. Missed that as I was talking to you. One more. This one was covered up in rust, and this actually goes all the way through here. Then, where's my medium bit? There you are. This one actually goes all the way through there. Actually, the medium one goes through here too. Medium, medium, all right? There was one more. You probably can't see it, but it's right there behind that. You see that big one in the front? There's a tiny one in the back there. That one, that's why I made this little guy. The A's have the same one. It kind of goes through straight down like this, and it comes through passageway down here, right? So you got to poke that through and make sure you get it through. All right, so I've got everything blown out now. I think all my passages are clear. I'm going to go ahead and grab the bottom half of the carb from the ultrasonic and finish cleaning that out, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, we've got our bottom half out. I blew it all out, cleaned it all out again with Carb Clean. There still is some rust and stuff down there, but I want to see if this tractor fires. So we're going to try to put this back together with the parts we have and see if this carb will actually do something. So again, that float was in there for all that time under heat, and it didn't seem to be collecting any water. So I think the float is good. I've got my needle and seat in there. I cleaned that out as best I could. It is kind of a trick to get that needle in there. So what I usually do is have it upside down like this, kind of work it in there with my finger, and you can slide the float, and it's going to be like impossible to show you on film. That's why I didn't do it. Then you slide your float in, and then slide your pivot in from the side, and now we're in there. So now we're going to put this cap back on here to see if this actually seals. Chances are this is probably going to leak because there's an old gasket on here. It's rock hard, you know, who knows how old. Probably going to leak, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens here. So screw that back on there, tighten it up, and we're going to try to blow in the side here and see if our float and needle and seat are doing their job, right? So blow on the side here. Got good flow. Turn it upside down. So it's trying to seal. We're getting a little bit of a seal there, so I didn't hear any air pushing through. Let's try it again. Flip it upside down. Nothing. Okay, so that seems like it's at least giving us something there. Whew. That was nasty. A little bit of that simple green still on here. Okay, so now we're going to put the rest of the carb together. Now, this gasket probably doesn't stand a chance in heck in sealing. It's rock hard. It's broken. I think I do have a kit laying here for a different tractor. Let me just take a look and see if I have another one laying around here. 1 second. All right, guys, so I don't have another carb kit laying around, unfortunately, so I'm going to try to reuse this gasket. I took a dab of super glue just to stick those ends together, and it seems like it's holding. Again, probably won't work, probably going to leak just because it's so hard and rotten, but hey, you never know. Got my other gaskets over here, too. Okay, so we're going to put this together. So it goes like this, okay? So I'm going to lay my gasket on that surface there. There's a little ridge on there on the casting itself. You want it to kind of, oh, yep, see, she came apart already. Son of a gun. That's okay. Yeah, that's most certainly going to leak. All right, let me see if I can stick that together one more time. All right, we got it all back together. Don't forget to put in your brass plugs like I did, because I had to take it all back apart and put the brass plugs back in, but we're back to where we were before. Okay, now we got to put our needles in, right? So we want to take our, this is our idle needle. It says right there, idle. We want to screw it in all the way until it's lightly seated on the bottom, okay? And the initial settings for an A anyways are 1.5 turns out. Not sure what it is for B, I might have to look it up, but we're going to try that for starters here. All right, don't crank the snot out of these because you can put a groove into those. So just so that they're lightly seated like that, so we're going to come out 1.5 turns here. Flip her around. We'll do the load side, which is again the stubby one. Going to do the same thing. Get it down in there. Screw it in until lightly seated. And this one, come on, almost there. Lightly seated. Going to turn out 1 full turn. So come all the way around to right there. So that should be good enough to get this thing to fire, at least initially. See if we can make it make some noise, okay? So we're going to go out there. We're going to bolt on our carb. Don't forget your little gasket here, which again is rock hard, but this one's less important than the other ones. You still don't want, you know, air leaks and stuff like that. But yeah, let's go ahead. It actually goes on this side, and you can kind of see it'll help. This one has little dimples in there. That's from these passages, right? So if you put it back in the same spot, it should help you locate it. Okay. So we're going to do that. I also have to rig up a fuel system somehow because, like I said, there's an ecosystem of mice and things like that living inside that gas tank. So I need to run an auxiliary tank. So I'm probably going to rig something up with a, I don't know, a jug or something like that. So let me look around and see what I got, and then I'll bring you back when it's time to fire off. All right, folks, we're set up. I've got my carburetor ready to go there. I can see it's leaking already. Up there, I have a squeezy bottle, body armor full of gas, with a line rigged up, going down to the carb. So the goal here is just to get this thing to run for a little bit. So let's see what happens. We're gonna try some ether right down the yap right away. Choke open. See if we can't get her to fire. All right, hold on to your butts. She's trying, boys. Ooh. Looks like we don't have fuel anymore. Try a little bit more ether. See what happens. Oh, it's trying. Just make sure I got my plug wires tight on here. All right, let's try again. Oh, she wants to go. Give her some throttle. Come on, baby. Start it in like that. Come on. Oh, she wants to go. Oh, come on. She's just not getting enough fuel. Try to wrap it on this float. Maybe the float is sticking a little bit. It's not getting enough fuel. Alright, let's give her a whirl. getting fuel, but she's running. Whoop. That's not going to help matters any. All right, let's try this. All right, we're gonna give the starter a break here, refuel, and then we'll come back and give her another shot. But she's getting close. All right, let's try her again. Wow. All right, let's try opening up our needles a little bit. Try going a half a turn and half a turn, see what happens. Get back up there. Oh man. Alright, gotta go get a booster. Be right back. Alright, booster engaged. Here we go. Now I think my float is sticking. I'm not seeing fuel up here. Now we're not getting fuel. Let's see what we got going on here. Yep, we're just having a fuel issue. Let me see if I can sort that out in the carburetor. I'll bring you back. Alright guys, I think I might have figured it out. I think my squeezy bottle here, well, because it is sealed, there's no vent, so I'm getting an airlock, so it wasn't allowing fuel in. I opened up this right here and nothing was flowing until I squeezed the bottle. So I popped the hole on top of the bottle here. It stays, we're going to put it. Now let's give it a try. Well, she runs pretty good. Look at that, she's idling like nothing. What's up? See if we can kill her off at the magneto over here. That's what I was trying to do. Come on. It's probably too rusty. We'll just do it this way. All right, there you have it, boys. John Deere Model B running for the first time. Whoop, don't want to spill too much gas over here. Running for the first time in many, many years. So now I just got to wait for it to warm up a little bit because I'm sure that case is frozen. That way I can actually drain that water out, and I want to get it in the shop here. Next step, I got to do that, and then we got to work on that clutch because I can't drive it right now because that clutch is still stuck. Okay. So yeah, that's really cool. Sounds really good. All right, I'll bring you back when it's time to work on it some more. All right, folks, it's a week later and we're back. Our goal today is to try to get this clutch off for starters, right? It's cold out, guys. You can see there's ice on the ground, ice over there. So that crankcase is still going to be froze. But today, it's supposed to get up to like 53 degrees. So it's early in the morning yet. Temperature is rising. I can feel it. It's going to be a sunny day here for the most part. Look at that. So we're going to work on this clutch here while we let that thaw out, and hopefully we can get this clutch freed up and we might be able to drive this thing off the trailer, which would be sweet. So first thing I got to do is get this cover off. Now, normally you can just take a screwdriver and pry on this, but this thing's been sitting outside for so long it's rusted. So I'm hitting it with penetrant, and I'm taking my brass hammer and just giving her some tappies all the way around here, all the way around here, try to bust up that rust, and then hit it with some penetrant again. And now I'm going to try to take my pry bar here and work it in there with a hammer to get that cover off. So just want to be gentle because this is thin steel and you can pop through it. You don't want to do that. So let me set you up on the tripod and you can see the process. 1 second. All right, so this is probably the best angle I'm going to get you because it's tight quarters up here in the trailer. So take my pry bar and my brass hammer here, and I'm just going to start working along the edge and see if I can't get her to start separating. Oh, she's starting to move. All right, there we go. I can't turn that engine. Well, engine didn't seize back up over the week. That's a good sign. Like I said, this normally just pops right off with a screwdriver, but she's a bit rusty. She's been sitting a while. Oh yeah, she's gonna come off now. Ooh. Well, look at that. It's like we're panning for gold here, except there's no gold, it's all rust. Well, that's why that clutch is stuck. This thing is packed full of rust. Let me pull you off the tripod and you can see what we're seeing here. Ugh, look at that. I don't know, we might have some stuff that's shot in here. We'll see. I'm going to do my best. I'm getting some glare there. I'm going to do my best to get this stuff all cleaned out. Then we'll see where we're at. So let me go ahead and clean that out and I'll bring you back. Alright guys, hopefully you can see what's going on here, but I got all that loose rust blown out of there. I apologize for the lighting, it's bad right now. Got all that loose rust blown out of there, and I'm working on just getting in every nook and cranny I can with my compressed air wand and trying to blow that stuff out. But there's a lot of rust in here, so I'm gonna have to start the disassembly process, I think, here. So I've been hitting the bolts here all with penetrant, try to get those loosened up. So we're gonna see if we can do that. So first thing I'm gonna do is try to pull out these cotter pins and then get these nuts off here and see if I can't get this first piece off here. So I can try to set you in the tripod and see if you can see what I'm doing, but it's gonna be a tough view, but we'll see what happens. Yeah guys, I tried setting you up on the tripod, but it's just gonna be too tight to get in here, so I'll just show you kind of step by step what I did. Whoop, almost dropped the camera for one. I got my nuts off, so I was able to get one of the cotter pins out. I took a little punch Hopefully you can see that there. Took a little punch and I was able to drive it through the hole once I broke off the one side. Two of the other ones, the cotter pins are still stuck inside there. So once I get this all apart, I should be able to drill those out. The threads actually look like they're okay on here, surprisingly, back where it was grabbing, but we'll see once we try to tighten it back up. All right, I've hit it with some more penetrant around here. Now I've got to try to get this piece off. So I'm going to try to reach in there with a pry bar, tap on it with my brass hammer, see if I can't get her to loosen up. So I'll bring you back once I get some movement, so stay tuned. All right, status update. From tapping on here, I can see this one moves, this one still seized, but what I did notice, hold on a second, the clutch actually came loose. All right, I still can't roll it over all the way and make it engage. So I think my dogs on the back side are messed up. Actually, one second, let me try putting the bolts back in, or the nuts back in, and see if I can't get it to lock, because right now it actually sounds like it might want to work. Hold on one second. Well, what I was trying to do is to see if the clutch would work, so I was tightening up my nuts there, back on there, and it kind of does and kind of doesn't. It still doesn't want to roll over all the way, so I think my dogs are still hanging up a little bit on the back side, so this whole thing is going to have to come off. What I did do is I was able to get off my front plate there, so after loosening up all the nuts, my pins are all sliding now. That's good. They're still a little crusty in there, right, but better than they were. Still moving. My springs that you see here were actually rusted to, you can kind of see there's a loop in there. They were rusted to the back side there, so I had to pry those loose, but they came out. Now, here, this clutch disc is supposed to just pull right out, but you can see it's only partially able to move, so it's still kind of stuck in here, different places, right? So we're, oh, there it came out. Oh man, look at the back side. That is crusty. Whew. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if we can salvage this just for testing purposes or not, but because this thing doesn't take long to put back together when it's not rusty. All right, so next thing here, what we're going to do is we're going to lay the parts down on the ground in the order that we took them apart, so we know how we took them apart. All right, so now I'm going to take out this cotter pin, get this big nut off, and see if I can't get my driver to slide off there. So hopefully that won't be too bad, but I'm going to go ahead and get that out, get that off, and then I'll bring you back. I forgot to mention, I did clean up the threads as best I could with my wire wheel there to try to get a bunch of the goo off, and then I hit it with more penetrant, okay? So stuff is moving on me now. All right, so let me go ahead and get that cotter pin out and then that nut off, and we'll see if we can't slide that driver off, so stay tuned. All right, well, believe it or not, that nut came off pretty easy and that driver slid right off, so that's a good sign. And here's my other clutch disc in here, which is also stuck to the casting in there, so that's not good. So now we're going to pull the rest of this clutch off, so that just means I have to take out this pivot pin right here, which is loose. Looks like someone may have already been in here because the cotter pin was off. Could have rusted off too, for that matter, but we'll pop this guy out. Hopefully I can do it one-handed. It moved. Give it a little bit more penetrant here. Let me take a pliers. I don't have the right type of pliers out here, but oh, there she comes. Okay, that's out. Set that off to the side here. Now here, we'll move this that way. That doesn't matter. And then we got 4 bolts here to take off, and it also appears that this bolt has been replaced, so someone may have been in here before. All right, so I'll pop these 4 bolts off, and then this whole assembly slides out, and then the clutch will slide out. So let me get those bolts loose, and I'll show you how this works. All right, guys, I got my 4 bolts out, and really all I should have to do here is slide this out. That actually looks in pretty good shape. So here, let me set this down and point some things out for you. When this area right here gets really, really thin, that means it has a lot of wear. But I've seen sometimes where it gets down to, like, you know, paper thin, razor thin. This has about a 1/4 inch left on it, so that's in pretty good shape. All right, so now I should be able to, hopefully I can do this with one hand without breaking something. Slide my clutch all the way out, and there we go. Clutch is out. Okay, now we can take this inside the shop and give her a good cleaning. Oh my gosh, look at all the rust there. Ugh. Here, let's move this out of the way. Yikes. Yuckies. Oh my gosh. that's caked up dirt and rust and everything else in there. All right, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take this in the shop and see if we can't clean her up and maybe get this thing to function today. So stay tuned. All right, now that we're inside, let's give this thing a once over. So again, here's the main body of our clutch. Our disc is stuck from rust, so I'm going to see if I can't pry that out of there without wrecking it, and then clean up the backside, and we might be able to put this together for testing purposes, right? Of course, I got penetrant all over everything, so I'm going to hit everything with brake clean before I put it back together, but we're going to try to do that. Like I said, the pins do move, but you can feel there's some resistance. That one slides really easily. This one's got some resistance, so there's some goo-goo in there, and you can see there's, you know, crud everywhere in here that needs to be cleaned up. Go ahead and flip her over. Oh! All right, so here's what I was talking about with my dogs. Yeah. These bad boys are supposed to turn. This guy over here had the exact same thing going on. These were rusted tight. And it took some doing, but I did get them to move. So hitting them with penetrant, tapping on the casting with a hammer, brass hammer, so I'm not, you know, wrecking anything, and just keep working those. And I was able to get those free and get them cleaned up and get them back in the tractor. So we're gonna try to do all that. So I think the first thing I'm gonna do is hit these guys with penetrant, get that soaking while I flip it over and work on getting the cotter pins out for our pins here, and then getting that clutch disc off. So here's our, actually I'm going to need to grab a fresh can of penetrant, and I'm going to give those a good soaking, tap them a little bit, soak them again, then we'll flip it over, get those cotter pins out, pull these pins out, get my disc off, then we'll flip it back over. So I'll bring you along as we're doing certain tasks, so stay tuned. All right, I was able to get my clutch disc loose. What I did was, you can see I've got a razor blade sitting here, right? So it was down in the hole there, so I just kind of kept working the razor blade, sliding it under here along the edge, and she eventually popped up. It took me, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds to get it out of there, so that's good. All right, so put that off to the side. Again, it's not in the best of shape. We'll see if we can't clean that up just for testing purposes and see if we can't put her back together, but you know, the right thing to do would be to replace all this stuff, but we'll see where we're at as we, you know, get more and more of this disassembled here. All right, so now I'm going to get these cotter pins out so I can get my pins slid through, get those cleaned up. I'll bring you back when we're working on the other side, so give me a moment. All right, guys, pins are out. I took them over to my grinder there, and I wire wheeled them up to get them nice and shiny. You can see there is a decent amount of rust pitting on them. So not ideal, but they'll probably still work, okay? Next task is getting out the broken off cotter pins. I got them in here. All three of them broke off here, and two of them broke off up in here in that first hole here. So I did get this first one free. It's still a little hot. I took a torch and I heated up that area and then hit it with penetrant quick to cool it down, and I was able to drive that one through. So I'm going to use that method on these other three and see if I can't get them to work. Or other two, rather, see if I can't get them to work. So this one I might be able to just focus. This one I might be able to just drive right through, but we'll see what happens here. So I'm going to try that method again, and we'll see if I can't get them all clear. So I'll bring you back once I'm done with that. Also, in the meantime here, I'm taking all these, and I'm just, every chance I get, I'm hitting them with penetrant to try to get those, you know, get that penetrant soaked in there. I can actually feel this one is sliding side to side now. It wasn't before. This one's not. This one also is not. But, so it's working. So let me get some more penetrant on that, and I'll get these cleared up, and I'll bring you back. All right, I got our pins all cleaned up. I got our holes all clear, and the nuts all thread on there real nice and easy now. So those are probably salvageable. The main thing is the threads, right? You need those threads to be in decent shape for when you tighten down the clutch so that they actually hold and don't slip off. That's what was happening on my A. Where'd I put those things now? There they are. Wasn't all of them, but it was just a couple of them. You can kind of see on this one the threads were pretty worn. So especially back in this area here, right? So when you'd go to tighten down the nut, it would get to a certain point and it would just slip. It would spin. So I couldn't get any pressure on these springs when I was tightening the clutch up. So I think these are going to be good. Now we're going to put our attention to our dog. So you can see this one actually freed up on its own. It spins completely independently now. This one, I think it's this one. Nope, it's this one is kind of moving a little bit side to side, but won't turn on itself, and then this one is still completely seized. So I'm hitting these two with more penetrant. This one, I'm going to start by taking this one apart because it's already freed up. So, and then giving, you know, these more time to soak. So I'm going to start by taking off this cotter pin and then sliding the pin out and then pulling the dog out, and I'll show you what that looks like. 1 second. All right, we got number one apart pretty easily. There's basically just 4 pieces here, right? So we've got this, we've got the pin, we've got the little, looks like a dog bone, and we've got the cotter pin. This little guy was up in there, and it sticks out, and it obviously pivots in this little cup here, right? So not in terrible shape. They are rusty. So what I'm going to do while I'm getting this going here is put them in this container here and dump in some Evapor Rust and see if I can't get those cleaned up. I did that with my A, and it worked really, really well. I actually left them sitting there like a week or something like that, but we're gonna give these a few hours and see if we can't get them to clean up. And then, yeah, I'm gonna get to work on these other ones, and I'll bring you back once I get everything apart. All right, we got all 3 out finally. That last one took some doing. What I've been doing more recently is when I have stuff that's really, really stuck, I'll use a combination of heat and this CRC freeze off. Now, I use this on the radiator bolts on my A over there, and it works really good. This stuff it's a penetrant, but on top of that, it must have some compressed CO2 in there or whatever. And well, of course it has compressed CO2 in there, but it gets really, really cold. When you spray it on a fastener, you're supposed to spray it on a fastener for about 20 seconds straight, and you touch that fastener, it is cold to the touch, like it just came out of the refrigerator or the freezer, right? So what I've been doing most recently, and how I got this free is, you know, I worked it back and forth with penetrant quite a bit, tried tapping it back and forth, wasn't working. I heated up the body of the casting here, just with my MAP gas there. And then got that hot, and then I took my CRC freeze off, and I aimed it at both sides of the shaft as it was coming out of there, and a few taps later it started moving, right? Still had to wiggle it quite a bit to get it loose, but I used that method on the cotter pins that broke off in there, and I've used it on some other things so far. So just the combination of that heat, and then blasting it with this really quick to shrink it down, seems to bust that rust loose. So that's been good. All right, so I'm going to get this stuff in the Evapor Rust too, and then we'll get to cleaning up the rest of this menagerie here, so stay tuned. Alright, I spent the last half hour or so cleaning this thing up with a wire wheel, brake clean, all kinds of stuff like that, so I got it a lot better than it was. I'd be lying if I said it was perfect, but it's not. But it's a lot better than it was. Let's see if I can flip over the other side here. Oh my gosh, you're not going to be able to see very well, but did the same thing on this side, got this cleaned up as best I could. This bad boy slides nice and easy now. Got this surface cleaned up. Still a bit rusty. Got my springs cleaned up. And I cleaned on this guy as best I could, but this one is pretty pitted. But it is better than it was, right? So this is supposed to be smooth. And it might wear itself smooth as I'm, you know, once I put the clutch back together and start using it a little bit. But this is just for testing purposes to see what happens here, right? Okay. One more thing I want to do. If I flip this guy over, it's hard to see, but there is your bearing in here. That's your main clutch bearing. You can see it's full of old, nasty, dried up, cruddy grease and oil. This does not get a lot of oil. Oh yeah, one more thing I should mention here. These holes here that go all the way around, and these holes here that go all the way around, I clean those up because oil does get in those and kind of works its way up there. So I took compressed air and I took brake clean, and I got those all so that they're free flowing again because they were pretty gummed up. But I did get all those clean. All right, so that bearing, that bearing gets oiled by oil slinging on here from the gears inside and dripping down in there, so it doesn't take a lot of oil. So you want to make sure that thing is packed full of grease, right? When I reach my finger in there and I roll all the rollers and the bearings, they all feel like they move nice and free and easy and everything. When the clutch was on the flywheel still, or on the crankshaft still, there wasn't a lot of movement there. I didn't feel any movement there, honestly. So I think that bearing is still good. I just want to pack it full of grease. So I'm going to see if I can pop out Wahoo! Excuse me. See if I can pop out this cup here and hit the bearing with some more degreaser and brake clean to get all that old grease out of there, and then we'll pack it full of fresh grease. Then we should be ready to reassemble this thing. I still have my components down there soaking in the evaporust, so we'll see how those look. But I'm gonna go ahead and pop this cup off and then see what that bearing looks like. So give me a moment. All right, we got our cup off and cleaned up, and you can see what I'm talking about, all this big, chunky, old, nasty grease and oil and stuff in there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and hit this thing with brake clean and degreaser and whatever else we can do to get that thing as clean as possible, and then we'll go ahead and re-grease it. So let me get it all cleaned up, show you what that looks like, and then we'll re-grease it, so stay tuned. All right, we got that bearing just about as clean as we're gonna get it. Hard to see, but down there's a bushing, and right next to the bushing, there are holes going all the way around. Those connect with the holes I was talking about cleaning out right here, so you want to make sure that those are not packed full on this side as well. So I went through and I poked those through, and I got everything about as clean as it's going to get. All right, so now I'm going to take fresh grease and pack this thing just as full of grease as I can get it, okay? So I'm just going to take it, put it on my fingers, and just keep working it all the way around until it's packed as full as I can get it. All right, so I'll show you that once it's done. All right, I've got that bearing packed full of a good high temperature grease, and I smeared it around as best I could in there, cleaned off my surface up here so I don't have any grease that is going to be impacting my clutch discs. I also went on the underside and put some grease on the bearing under there, so now I'm just going to go ahead and seat my cup. So you can kind of see the way that this was. This is all dirty, so that means that was down. This is rusty, that means it was out, right? So this is just a cap to keep that bearing in place and keep the dust out. Grab my hammer here. Go ahead and just seat it until it's all the way home. There it is. That's where it is. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and get our dogs and stuff out of the evaporust and see how that's looking. So 1 minute. All right, here we go. These things have just been soaking maybe an hour and a half combined. It didn't get all the rust off yet, but you can see it is working. It is getting stuff off. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray this stuff down with some brake clean, then hit it with the wire wheel just to get some of these deposits out of there, and then we'll be ready for reassembly up here. So let me get it cleaned up the rest of the way, and I'll bring you back. All right, boys, these things cleaned up pretty nice actually. Look at that. Yeah, there's some pitting on there, but that's okay. Everything else turned out really good. Now, had I left these in that evaporust overnight, I wouldn't have even had to wire wheel, and I would have just had to clean them off, and we would have been done. But I only have a couple hours to work on this today, so that's what I did, and I still got pretty good results. Things are gonna work just fine. Okay, now it's time to reassemble. So I'll get 2 of them put together, then I'll show you the last one. 1 second. All right, I got 2 together. I'll show you the assembly process for the last one, okay? So here's what I've been doing with this too. So I really like this Teflon, this Blaster Dry Lube. It's basically a Teflon spray. It puts like a powdery coating on this stuff when you're done. Doesn't leave any oily residue, so no sand and stuff can build up on it, but it does keep this stuff nice and lubed up. So I'm going to spray down all these components with it. All right, okay, so you can't hardly see this, but there's a hole right here. That's where the top of this dog goes into, okay? So here's what I've been doing, and it seems to work pretty good. Just kind of sneak it down like this, and it's in. All right, now I'm gonna lube up my pin and the inside of my holes here. Come on. Where are we at? There we go. You can see everything turns real nice and easy now. Oh, you can't see that. Now you can. Everything turns really nice and easy now compared to where we were before. Okay, last step is to put my cotter pin in here. Flip her over. You guys can't really see that too well, but take my word for it. And then we're going to take our screwdriver, go. Pry that bad boy open. And then Actually, it works better. Where'd my pliers go? Yep, don't have it handy. Works better. Take your pliers and grab onto that side and bend it down, but this is going to work just fine. Okay, here we go. That's in. Last step, we're going to take our pin and oil that up too. Not oil it, spray it up, and drop it down the hole. See, my pin's now sliding out really easy too. So now, this bad boy slides up and down with these pins, and yeah, we're in good shape. Okay, now we'll flip it over. All we have to do is put some cotter pins on this side of the pin here. Then we can go out to the tractor and reassemble. So I'll bring you back once we're out by the tractor. Alright folks, this is unfortunately going to be the best angle I can give you out here, but time to start reassembling. So first thing we're going to do is slide our clutch pulley on. I'm going to take a little bit of grease and put it on our outer race here, just to steal a little bit from my bearing. Just a scotch, just to help her slide on a little bit easier. She should just slide right in, but we'll see. Look at that. Alright. Oh, she's in gear. Why is that turning? Okay. Sliding nice and easy. Now we can go ahead and put this bad boy back in. Now, this portion here needs to engage with, here I'll pull it out and show you, this portion right here on your clutch. Okay, so as long as you have your clutch all the way in, you shouldn't have a problem getting this on. Still with me? Yeah, sorry, the wind is bad today. Shouldn't have a problem getting it where it needs to go. Yeah. Looks like where we want to be. All right. Now we can put our 4 bolts back in. The one's still in here. I couldn't get it out. I didn't want to loosen this up and lose my adjustment there, so left that one in there. So we're gonna have to do that one by hand or by wrench rather than ratchet, but not a big deal. Where are you at, Ratchet? There you are. Alright. Put these 3 in, and I'll get my last one. Before we get it all the way tight, let's just go ahead and test it out here with our lever. We're going to go ahead and slide our pin back in here. Come on, there we go. Just to make sure. Yep. I think we're where we should be. Okay. Alright, sorry, my son was calling me. Alright, we're all bolted together. Things seem to be moving as they should. That didn't come out before, so we're in good shape. My bearing does feel tight on there, so that's good. Here. Yep. So that's good. Alright, time to start putting things back together. Alright, here's my discs. I did take these and I cleaned them up a bit, trying to get some of that rough surface off there, so time to put them back together. Alright, here. Alright, so one disc goes in first, all the way against the back of the clutch there. It just kind of sits in an impression back there. Alright, next goes our driver. So our driver, it's going to be hard to show you, but whoop, man, it's windy today. I know the audio is going to be terrible on this video. Alright, there is a little notch in here. That goes, there's a notch on our crank take you off the camera, get it lined up, and I'll show you that part because that's kind of important. 1 second. All right, so you can see on the flywheel here, there is this notch right here in that keyway, and that lines up with the notch on there. So that's important, A, because that's the only way it's gonna go back together, but B, you can see there's this big counterweight on this side. This driver is balanced with the crankshaft, so in an effort to make the engine run more smoothly, so that is important. On later models, on the A anyways, I'm not so sure about later model Bs, but later model A's, there's an actual arrow on the crank and an arrow on the driver that you have to line up in order to get those together. So just so you know, that is a thing on here. So I'm gonna get that slid on there. It's gonna take me 2 hands, otherwise I'd show you, but I'll get that slid on there and then we'll continue with the rest of the process, so stay tuned. All right, so this is important too. You can see I put my washer and my nut on. You want to drive your nut all the way in to make sure it pushes the driver all the way on as far as it can, but you don't want to leave it tight, okay? You then want to back it off 1 little turn so that you can get your hole to line up with the castle nut there, because if you have this thing too tight, it'll bind everything together and this drum will not roll independently from the driver here, okay? The discs will be sandwiched together. Now this is different from later model tractors, but this is how this works on these mid to early model tractors, okay? So that's in good shape. Now we'll go ahead and we'll get our front cover on. So I'll put you back on the tripod and show you that. All right, time to put our front cover on. We've got our last disc that rides in here. I'm gonna put it back on the same way it was before, just sits in there. And then we've got our springs. These are pretty well rusted on here, but like when these are brand new, these just kind of like bind themselves on there, but it's actually gonna help us right now because sometimes they want to come off when we put this thing together, but we just line it up. This isn't clocked any particular way. We just line it up so that these holes go through our T-bolts that we have sticking through here like that. Man, I know the audio is gonna be crap today, but here's what it is. Now, we can get our nuts started. I think I actually left the nuts inside, so I gotta run in and grab those, and I'll be right back. All right, I've got our nuts started here, and this is how we actually adjust our clutch. So, important thing here, these nuts need to be turned on evenly, okay? Need to be adjusted evenly. All right, so I've got them set so that right now, so that the end of the castle nut is pretty much flush, as best as I can get it, with the end of the bolt, okay? So now we want to adjust this clutch evenly. So right now, get this out of the way. Come on, it's hard to work with the camera. Right now, when I pull my clutch lever forward, there's no snap for engagement, okay? No snap, we're not engaging yet, right? So we want to get it so that we feel a steady snap, like a pop, when we engage it, okay? So I saw about where these were before. There's the holes in the bolt. They were just about at the end of where the castle nut top was before, okay? So I'm gonna turn all these in evenly until I get them to that point. And I'll just show you how I'm doing one round here, right? So I'm gonna go, so 1, 2, 3 turns. 1, 2, 3 turns. 1, 2, whoop. Oh, see, I kind of messed up that one. That's about 3 turns there, right? So I'm going to keep going in until I see about where I was before when I took this all apart. So I'll bring you back once I get to that point. 1 second. All right, guys, I actually had to start that over. 3 turns was too much. It was actually, come on, focus. It was actually, what's going on here? Like 2.5 turns, okay? So now, you can hear, you get to a point and there's a snap. Go back, there's a snap. Snap, snap, okay? So now when I'm right here, my clutch rolls independently of my flywheel. When I'm here, ugh, come on, my clutch and my flywheel move together, okay? Now, make sure that your holes, come on, focus, your holes are lined up with a notch in the castle nut all the way around here, okay? That's also how you do your fine adjustments. If you find that your clutch is too tight, you just back each one off 1 notch. So you go to the next notch, line up the next notch in the castle nut with the hole. If you think it's too loose, you go 1 notch the other direction, okay? So now I'm gonna put my cotter pins back in here. My clutch should be set and ready to go. So let me get my cotter pins in and then I'll bring you back. All right, clutch is on. Working like it should. Working like it should, all right? Okay, so now it's time to start this bad boy up and see if it moves under its power for the first time in several decades, right? 20, 30 years, best our knowledge, right? First thing I gotta do though is, you can see my rear tire leak down. I gotta fill that sucker up, get some air in it, get my ramps ready, and rig up my fuel system again, and then put you in the tripod, and you'll see the cold start, and you'll see us try to back it off. So I'm gonna have the ramps down and I'm gonna do it in reverse, okay? That way, in case anything gets stuck, I don't drive off the front of my trailer and get myself hurt, right? So worst thing that's gonna happen is I'm gonna drive off into the field, and then I'll be able to maneuver from there. So let me get all that ready to go, and I'll bring you back when it's time to fire it up and drive it. So stay tuned. All right, here goes nothing. Hopefully we still have spark. Petcock's open. Let's go for a quick ride. No seat, so it's difficult. All right, there you have it. John Deere Model B, 1941. First time driving under its own power in decades, probably 20 years. Forgot to show you this before too. So instead of my janky setup before with the squeezy bottle, I actually bought an actual purpose-built auxiliary tank. This is for motorcycles and stuff like that, so it doesn't hold a lot, but works for this purpose right here, right? So my clutch did start slipping a little bit, and see, now it's not snapping in anymore. It's probably because I wore down some of that rust and stuff that was in there. So I'm going to go ahead and readjust it, and then we'll try again. Give it a little bit more fuel too. So I'll be right back. All right, we got some more gas. Didn't show you too. I did get a bowl nut gasket, so we're not leaking anymore. So that's good. Yeah, the clutch needed some adjusting. I had to go about 3 notches on the castle nuts here, but now we're back to grabbing as we should. All right, let's try that again. Let's got to turn the gas back on. On these old Johnnies, it's a good habit just to turn the gas off so that you're not getting flow, because if that float sticks, it goes right back up into the cylinder there. So that's not good. And you know, this is kind of an unproven carb. It does seem like the float is working like it's supposed to, so I'm kind of impressed. All right, let's see if we can start it from the pedestal this time without using choke, since we got a little heat in her. All right. Neutral, clutch is back. All right, let's see what happens. Nope, looks like she wants a little choke. Let's see. Yeah, she's not getting the proper back pressure because we don't have the intake for it. So. But she fires right up just as soon as she gets gas. Let's do a low idle once as long as we're here. See how this carb is really living. Look at that. Whoop. Almost lost her. Dang. That carb is actually in good shape. For me not really replacing anything, just going in there and cleaning it out, it runs really good. Whoop. Now we floated her. Sure. All right, let's crank her again. Get to talking about her, and then she gets bashful. Come on. There we go. All right, now let's go for a ride. See if that clutch is working any better. Oh, okay. Let's try a higher gear this time, see what happens. Lost you. She grabbed good that time. Yep, and she stops like she's supposed to. Make sure my brakes are back. Yep. Right. Go again. Oop. I think I need to open up my load needle just a little bit. Seems to be choking out. Let's see here. Low needle will go right there. All right, put her back in neutral. Okay. Come on, Betsy. Go back there, she's muddy. see what happens this time. Nope. Little too much in this soft ground. All right, boys, she's running, she's driving. It's pulled in road gear. Granted, we got some low tires, so that was giving us some resistance. The ground's pretty soft too, but she's not even smoking. I can't believe it. She was stuck sitting for so long. It's not even smoking. It starts right up. Love it. All right, next thing we're gonna do is I gotta clear some space in the shop here, put my sleds from there out in the trailer, and we'll pull the bee in the shop there and really get her thawed out so that she can get that crankcase cleared out and that rear end cleared out. So just gonna let her idle while I go in there, get the sleds out, and then we'll pull her in. I'll let you see that, so stay tuned. Look at that old girl, running like a top. Just sat there and idled that whole time. I was moving my sleds around, about 5-10 minutes while I was messing around with it. So, man, she's running good. Okay, well, now she's in here and she can meet her big brother, the A. All right, so what we're gonna do here, it's gonna end it for today. I'm gonna let this thing sit in here. My shop is heated, so it's gonna sit in here in the heated shop for probably till next weekend, and then we will go ahead and do an oil change and flush out the crankcase. So I'll bring you back next weekend. All right, and it's been a week that we've been sitting inside the heated shop for a week, so it should be good and warm in here. Everything should be warmed up inside the crankcase and the rear end there, so let's get to draining. So we're gonna hop under here, and we're gonna start what we started, or finish what we started doing a couple weeks ago. So we're gonna come back to our drain plug. See if we can get some light on the subject here for you. Back here, and we're gonna try to see if we can drain out some water from there. So now there are actually two drain plugs. There's one here, and there's one here. This one, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get out, because if there's water in there, like I know there is, it seems to be pretty rusted on top. So I've been trying to get this thing to budge, hitting it with penetrant, tapping it and things like that, and I haven't been able to get it to budge yet. Once I get stuff drained out of here, I might hit it with some heat to see if I can't get it to, expand and contract a little bit. But for now, we're gonna just try to see if we can get the water draining out of this here. So let me grab some tools here. I got everything laying here. Gonna be tough to do with one hand, but we're gonna try to at least get that water out of there. Okay. So let's come up here and see if we can't bust this loose. Oh, okay, she's moving. All right. I'm gonna crack her open just like we did before until we see water running out, and we'll see just how much water we're gonna get out of there. Oop. All right, here we go. All right, well, we're just gonna let that drain a while. While it's draining, we're gonna start working on the crankcase. So let me get you up top and we'll get going there. Well, shortly after I shut off the video, the back portion here stopped draining water and started draining sludge. So It basically looked like this. The world's worst Hershey syrup is what you're seeing there. It's just nasty. So then I let that drain out, and I got up to the front plug, and I was having a hard time getting it out. I was actually stripping it off. It's a square pipe plug, basically, and it was in there so tight, you know, so rusty, it was starting to strip out. So what I wound up doing is taking my my nut extractor. So this is called a socket rocket, and you basically pound it on there, and it gets on there really tight. And as you lefty-loosey it, it gets tighter and tighter on there, and it actually extracts out. It worked really good, and I got that thing out. And you can see here we've got more of the world's worst Hershey syrup going on there. So we're going to let that drain for a while, and we're going to grab another bucket, and we're going to pull our drain plug here for the crankcase. So we'll see what that's like here. So 1 second. Well, we got water in the crankcase as well. So I just pulled the plug out a little bit, and look at water started coming out. So that's not good. So, you know, the other day when I pulled that plug and nothing would come out, it's probably because the water had the hole plugged up there. So, yeah, we're going to let that drain out, and then try to see about flushing this crankcase and this rear end. So 1 second. All right, folks, here's what happened. Once that water quit draining, then nothing would drain out. I pulled the plug all the way out, and nothing would come out. So there is goo in the bottom of that crankcase. I stuck my finger up in there as far as I could, and I just felt like, you know, firm oil basically up in there, right? It was solid. It didn't want to come out. So here's what we're gonna do. I've taken off my oil fill here for the crankcase. I'm gonna dump about 2 gallons of diesel down there, and I'm gonna do the same thing back here for the rear end. Dump about 2 gallons of diesel down there, and we're going to start her up, and we're going to let the engine circulate that diesel till it gets warm, hopefully loosen up a lot of that crud that's in there, and then we're going to jack up the rear end on the tractor and have the one wheel up in the air and put it in gear and let it turn and spin, and you know, slosh those gears and everything else around inside the crankcase, try to get the rest of that pudding out of there. So that's what we're going to try here. So let me dump that stuff down there. So like I said, I'm just going to dump it right down here and dump it right in the rear end, and I'll bring you back when we're ready to fire it up. So stay tuned. All right, folks, we've got our 2 gallons of diesel in the crankcase and in the rear end. So that's all ready to go. Whoops, kicked the camera there. So why am I doing that? Diesel is going to thin out all the sludge that's in there, and it still has a little bit of lubricating property. Now, I'm not running straight diesel. I still have the crankcase oil in there, but the idea is I want it to be able to slosh around and get through all the passages and break up any sludge in the bottom of that crankcase there, so we're not having our buildup issue in there, right? And same thing with the rear end. All right, so we're gonna try something here. Since this is a magneto tractor, I should be able to hand start this bad boy, meaning I'm going to pull on the flywheel to get it to start. So here, I'll show you this quick. We have these compression release petcocks on the side here. So that being closed, that means this hole is closed off and it doesn't vent the crankcase or the combustion chamber. So you go like this, you put it in line, and let me hear it hissing. That means that I'm relieving some of the compression to make this easier to pull over by hand. So I have an A on my hunting land where that's the only way you can start. It has no electric start option, so you just grab onto the flywheel. So we're gonna see if we can't do that with the B here. See how well she's running actually. So I got a full tank of fuel up there in our little bottle there. Here, I'll go over and close the garage door so you guys can see a little bit better, but we're gonna give this a shot. All right, should be able to see now. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna open this petcock here, full choke, turn my fuel on from my squeezy bottle here, and it's going to be a little rough because you got the flywheel teeth here, but we'll manage. All right, full choke, throttle right there, we are in neutral. All right, let's give this a shot, see what happens. Don't quite have that petcock. There we go. Now you can hear that petcock hissing. Ooh, I think it's gonna work, boys. Ooh, she wants to go. So I'm just gonna do that for a little while, like you just saw with me standing up there. You can see the rear end goes and just the one tire spins, but I want to be up there for safety purposes just in case it were to fall off the jack. I don't want to just leave it as it is. So I'll bring it back in a little while. All right, we did that for about 5 minutes to let that run. Don't want to run it too much, just enough to get everything lubricated and let it thin up that oil and hopefully break up some of that sludge that's in the bottom there. Now I'm just letting it drain down a little bit in the crankcase, but we're going to start with the rear end and see if we can't pop open the rear end and see what that looks like now, see if we're getting our sludge out. So let me crawl under there and we'll see what happens. All right, we've got our front plug for the rear end loose. Let's see what happens when we drain that out. Oop, yep, there we go. Look at that pudding coming out of there. So let that one drain down, then we'll go ahead and pop open the back one and see what that one looks like. I'll bring you back when we do the back one. All right, front one's still dripping a little bit. Now let's pull our back one out. See what that looks like. Not that you can see anything. There we go. See, that's why you got to pull out both those plugs, because they both hold quite a bit of fluid in there, right? All right, so now we'll just let the rest of that pudding drain out of there, and then we'll start working on our crankcase up there. So let me get set up there, and we'll get going. All right, hands got too oily. I couldn't show you what was going on here when I pulled the plug, but I pulled the plug, and stuff started flowing a little slow, so I gave her a little poke, and then just like the tide let loose, just boosh, it all came rushing out. So you can see it's all real thin and black. That's what we wanted. It broke up a lot of that sludge. Just letting her drain a little bit. I did poke up in there a bit around with my finger, feel some more sludge. There was some more up there, so I got that out, and then I sprayed up in there with some brake clean to help flush it out. Also sprayed down to the top with some brake clean. I pulled out my filter, which you just have to use a big wrench there, and let me show you what that looks like. Got that sitting out here. Look at the sludge in there. So there was a filter in there, which is good. My A didn't have a filter in it when I changed oil for the first time, but you can see it like ate through the outer housing of the filter on there, like the outer paper that was on there. And there's just all kinds of sludge in there. So we got to go ahead and get that cleaned out. Get cleaned out up in the hole there, and there's gonna be a gasket up there. I don't know if I can show you or not, but here, let me crawl down here quick and, so you can put your papers on. All right, so in this channel that goes all the way around here, there's gonna be a rubber gasket in there that's probably rock hard. So you wanna go in there with a pick and a screwdriver, whatever else you can to get all those chunks of gasket out of there, and I'll show you what the new gasket looks like in the filter kit that I got here. So let me get everything cleaned up, and then I'll bring you back. All right, I think I mentioned previously that I had a pretty bad oil leak coming from this thing, where it would have maybe like a puddle the size of a butter container in the morning once you come out. So I wanted to fix that before I put fresh oil in there. So I pulled off this cover here, and these gears were in there. I'm pretty sure these are the oil pump gears, but I'm not 100% sure exactly what these are. Doesn't really matter. I pulled off the cover, and here, I'll show you. There's that gear hanging down there, and then there is another gear that meshes with it right here. And then there was this gasket, and this was obviously the cover. So I threw this stuff in the ultrasonic cleaner to get it cleaned up. So now I'm going to put this back together. So I can see it was leaking like on this corner right here, because the gasket was pretty much gone. So I cleaned up the surface underneath there. This gasket is really thin. It's probably more of a shim than anything. So I don't have any material that thin, so I'm going to reuse this. But what I am going to do is take some Permatex, some black Permatex, and smear it all around the back side here, and all around the top side here, and then put that back together there. Make sure to put a healthy dose right in this region here so that she doesn't leak out on us again. So hopefully that works. So I don't have this gasket handy, of course. I could get it, but I'm trying to get this thing back together right now. So that should work, okay? You know, I always say you got to work with what you got, and what I got is the old gasket, and I got some Permatex. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and smear that up and then get that back installed, and then we'll try to put some oil back in this thing. So stay tuned. All right, here's my oil filter cover down there. Got it all cleaned out. I had her soaking in the ultrasonic cleaner for about a good half hour. Got all the sludge out of there. I was mentioning my gasket earlier. Here's the old gasket that was up in that little crevice I was talking to you about. You can see, you know, she's crumbly, she's cracked, so I had to make sure I picked all that out. And here is My new filter and gasket. So it's a Wix. The A uses the same one, so that's the number I use. I like these filters because they've got a metal housing on the outside, unlike that other one that was a paper housing. You saw how it disintegrated. This one's not going to do that. This is all metal out here with the element inside, okay? These are not directional. They just go on any way you want to go. And they actually come with two gaskets, a bigger one and a smaller one. You're only going to use one, so you can just, discard or keep the other one if you want to. But in this case, as you can see, the smaller gasket is the one we want. All right, so we're going to go down there under the tractor, coat this gasket with oil, and work it up into that crevice down there, and then we're going to install our filter. So I'll show you part of that process, but not the whole thing, but I'll bring you back as we're putting the finishing touches on this, so stay tuned. All right, we've got our gasket pushed up in the channel there. I used my finger to get as flat as I could, and then I just used the back of a centering punch, the flat part, to poke it up there and get it all the way up there. All right, just center your filter in there as best you can, and then start threading on your cap. You'll get it up there. All right, and now, whoops, once you get it to the point where you can't turn it anymore by hand, obviously, then you got to use a wrench. Now, do not over tighten this. You can do that, and you're either gonna you can snap off that stem up there is what's gonna happen, right? So you do want to have it snug, because you can, come on, focus on me here. There we go. There's a copper gasket here, and that's what seals this the nut basically on there. And then you also want to get it snug so that doesn't leak. But you want to get this snug but not overly tight. Okay. So I'm gonna go like this till I feel it starting to tighten up. And then don't force it, kind of like a drain plug. You don't want to over tighten your drain plug. Same type of deal. Okay, I'm just gonna go that tight. Okay, give it a decent amount of force, but don't really reef on it. All right, that should be enough. Now, if it does start leaking, you can just snug it up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until it stops leaking. It should stop leaking. Okay, so now we're ready to put some oil back in. So I'll bring you back once we're up top here. All right, let's add some lube here to this bad boy. Okay, so I think I mentioned earlier, right here is where the oil goes in. Just pour it right down the hole there. The manual calls for straight 30 weight oil in these old girls, but that was before they had multi-temperature oils like that, right? And it was also before they had detergent oil. Now, you saw that sludge buildup in there. That's most likely because they didn't use a detergent oil in here. It's probably they probably just used straight 30 weight oil in here, just like the manual said, which is perfectly fine. But today we have better oils than we had back then. So here's what I have been using in my tractors, and a lot of guys do the same thing. They love it. So 1540 diesel oil, basically, right? And specifically the Shell Rotella T4 1540 diesel oil. It's a little bit thicker than your standard oil. It's going to give you your multi-viscosity for hot-cold temperature, and it has a bunch of minerals in there, like zinc, that these tractors need for their lubricating their tappets and things like that. So that's what we're dumping in here, right, wrong, or indifferent. This B takes 7 quarts, so I've got 2 of these jugs. I'm going to dump in the full first jug, and then dump in 3 more quarts out of the next jug, and then we'll be ready to go to the rear end, and we'll show you how to fill up the rear end. So I'll bring you back once we're ready for that. All right, oil's in. Time to add our gear lube in the rear. So I'm just using an 80W90. I don't know that you can necessarily use the wrong thing in here. Some guys say that you should use something that's rated for brass, because there is brass parts in the back there, but this thing isn't, who knows what they used back in the day, and this thing's had water in it forever, so you can't tell me that's good for it. So this is what I'm using. Anyways, the plug is right here, just kind of at the bottom of the rear end there on the side there. So this thing takes 4.5 gallons. It should fill up right to this bottom edge of that hole there. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this in, and then we'll fire it up and go for a ride. All right, there we go. Hopefully you can see that, but 4.5 gallons took us right up to our lip here, so we're full. So we're just going to go ahead and put our big old pipe plug. Whoop, come on. It's not easy to look through the camera and do this. There we go. Put our big old pipe plug back in, tighten it up, and we'll check for leaks. Let's do that right now before I tighten that up. Check for leaks for our oil and for our rear end. Let's see here. Oil looks good. Rear end Looks good. All right, so now I'll go ahead and start her up, get everything lubricated through here, and go for a little ride. So I'll bring you back when we're starting her up. All right, guys, we're ready to rip. We're gonna go for the hand start again. Let you see that one more time. Already got my petcock on the other side open. Turn on our fuel. Open up that petcock. Give her some choke. Neutral. All right. Let's give her. Ooh. Oh, sure, now she doesn't want to do it. So I do notice the oil pressure is higher now with that thicker oil in there. It was kind of pretty much dead center, now we're higher, so I like that. All right, here we go. There we go, guys. Took her up and down the road a couple times. Oil pressure's still right in the middle, so that's good. Don't have a temp gauge, so I don't know if she's getting hot, but she's holding coolant. You know, coolant's up top here, so I'm sure that's just fine. Fan's working, so we're getting circulation. She's idling really nice. I don't see any smoke anymore, so there's no blow-by. We'll have to see if we get her really hot if she gets some blow-by, but yeah, it's running good. Clutch actually seems to be engaging quite nicely too. So I think the clutch is actually okay, right? Still should probably replace those discs, but it's, you know, good enough for right now. All right, shut the gas off. Okay, we're gonna let the oil drain down a few minutes, and then we'll check the oil just to make sure we're at the proper level, and then we'll move on. All right. Let's double check for leaks. Now that we've gotten her warmed up and letting her sit, doesn't appear to be any leaks around the oil filter, none around the oil plug, and that cap for them gears are not leaking. Rear end looks good as well. I gotta get some oil dried down here though. I made a big old mess. All right, so now here is where you check the oil. On this model, it is underneath the clutch here. So all we gotta do is open this bad boy up and see if anything comes out. If nothing comes out, then we got to add a little bit more oil. Nope, we got oil. All right, here, let's let a little bit drain out and see how she looks. Oh, get back in there. Not that much. There we go. Oh, come on. Man, a lot more drain out than I wanted to. All right, let me tighten that up. Take a look at it in the pan there, see how she looks. Doesn't appear to be any water in there, so I think we got all the water out. I think we got all the sludge out, so yeah, I think we're in good shape. All right, here's the next issue I want to tackle. As you know, the main tank is shot. Here, I'll try to show you down in the hole there. Let's see. Can you see that? Yeah, that's a big nest down in there, right? It's got holes all the way through it right there. You probably can't see. Maybe I can show you the light. You can't see that. It's got holes all the way through it right there and on the other side. So the main tank is shot. But it appears the auxiliary tank here, I don't know if you can see or not, it looks pretty good down there. There is a bunch of sediment down there, but it's dry. So I might be able to suck that out and get it to run off its own auxiliary tank. I mean, the lines are still there. Goes up there. It doesn't appear to be rotted out up here. So I think I'm going to take my shop vac and try to suck that out and maybe use the air compressor to stir everything up to suck out whatever crap I can in there. And I might be able to pour gas in there and get it to run off of its own tank here rather than using the auxiliary tank here. So let me just let me see if I can do that. So 1 second. All right, guys, I got it pretty clean down in there. Oop, focus in there. It's gonna be tough to focus down in the hole, but I got the majority of the crap out of there. You see that little tube in there? That was down in the fuel outlet there. It appears they were using this tank at some point to run this tractor, because that was in there because there must have been some sediment in there that they couldn't get out, and they didn't want to get sucked down into the engine. So I've got it free flowing now. Here, where's my air wand? Coming out of here, you can hear. Right out through the hole there. So I'm gonna flush some brake clean down there to just try to get out some more of that sediment and stuff, and then I'm gonna plumb up a fuel line here with a shutoff. I don't know if I have a filter laying here, but I'll see if I do, and we'll see if we can't get this thing to run off of its own cylinder, off of its own fuel tank here. So 1 second. All right, guys, didn't have a fuel filter in stock, but I will get one, I promise. This is just for testing purposes. I poured a little bit of fuel down in there just to see if it would cloud up on us or anything. Let me see if you can see down there. Probably not. Let's see. Let's go. There we go. And it stayed nice and clear. I did flush it out with carb clean, and it just came out clear. So I think I got all that stuff out of there. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit more fuel in there, and then we are going to turn on our valve and see if she'll start off her own tank. So let me go ahead and get you set up, and I'll do that. All right, let's give her a shot. I've got my petcock open on the other side. I'm going to hand start again just because I like to do that. It's fun for me. All right, we're going to turn our fuel on. There's no leaks up to this point, so everything now just has to run down to the carb. I'm in neutral. We're all good there. I'm going to open up our petcocks and try some choke. She seems to like that. More choke. Running off her own tank for the first time in decades. All right, I don't want to run it for too long that way just because I don't have a fuel filter, so I don't want it to suck crap down in there, so we'll go ahead and turn that bad boy off. Okay, that's good. Just about everything's operational on this thing, guys, right? The only thing we're really missing is the charging system, which you may or may not need, right? So this thing starts by hand so easy. That isn't the safest thing to do with a flywheel with teeth on it like I'm doing right there, right? But you can do it. So it is more ideal to have it run off of the starter. But in order to do that, you really should have a charging system to charge the battery. Since this is a magneto ignition, you don't necessarily need it as long as you put that battery like on a solar charger or a trickle charger after you're done using it, because when the tractor is running, it does not need it because the magneto system doesn't rely on battery power for spark ignition there. But either way, we're going to test this bad boy out to see if it makes any voltage or not. Now, it feels a little on the rough side. I have been adding oil into these little caps here. You can see they're full of oil. This one, and there's one back here. So it does spin over, but you can tell it's, it's been out in the weather, right? So, because that's been exposed. But I need to find myself a belt, and then we need to hook it up, and we need to start testing here to see if we've got anything from this voltage regulator and from the generator there. So let me get myself set up, and we'll take a look at that. Well, slight change of plans, guys. I'm not going to be working on that generator after all. As it turns out, I've been sending videos of this tractor as I'm getting it going, getting it moving, getting things like that. And once I sent the video of me hand starting it and running off its own small fuel tank, the guy I bought it from, who's a friend of mine, actually wants to buy it back. So I'm going to make him a good deal on it. Truthfully, I was going to flip this tractor anyways. So he had aspirations of putting a cultivator on it and things like that. So he's going to take it back and do that now that it's running and operational. So I will do a video on the generator for my Model A over here, so we can get that thing up and running. But that'll be coming down the line here. So yeah, this 41 Model B is gonna go back to its owner that I purchased it from, and he's gonna take it the rest of the way. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you all liked what you saw here. Please like and subscribe, and we'll keep this thing going. Till the next one, signing off.